But looks like the rest of this week will be great. Probably the weekend may be a little wet, so. But, so let's go ahead and call it to order and stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, part of the agenda, what we're going to do today, I did attend the CERT training in Tavares. It was a 4-day event. I'm going to go over that with the slides. It was very good, and my goal is to get at least 2 other people in the community to go. Looks like right now it's going to be the middle of January of next year. It's a Tuesday and Thursday. It starts at 9 o'clock, and they say till 4, but most days we got out around 3. The last day we actually got out close to lunchtime because we decided, I mean, they did have a final exam, but everybody was writing the answers down, so it was pretty easy. You could open book and so forth, so it went pretty quick. And then Brian's first going to get up and talk a little bit about the, I guess what Adelia, exactly what happened with that and what we did. We did do some, I guess what you call exercise on communications a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, Brian helped me with that, and so did Lou. One of the radios that we got, which is a 15 amp,
15 watt.
cannot transmit.
Watt.
Watt?
Yeah.
What did I say, amps?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not an electrician, so 15 watt. And he could hear me fine from here, but he just couldn't transmit. So hopefully it's just a microphone, but we'll end up with 2 40-watt systems and that. And I talked to Josh today, and they're okay with putting out a thing in the ground that we can put a temporary antenna. If we can get that thing up to 20 feet, it will improve the transmission. And like I say, even when we did it with Brian, we could hear everywhere in the community. So I think once we get that antenna up a little higher and then use the 40-watt system between Lou and myself up here, that in case we do have an issue that we need to use the radios, hopefully it'll work real fine. But the Cobra radios did well. Okay, Brian, why don't you go ahead and...
Okay.
Wow, this is an overwhelming crowd, isn't it? Well, a lot of people may be gone, you know, Labor Day was just yesterday. I hope everyone had a really nice one. Maybe you had a little bit of barbecue going on or something like that. I didn't get any invites. But, so yeah, the hurricane. Boy, I'm so glad that it just kind of bypassed us yet again. Not that we can count on that ever, but certainly glad that we didn't have to deal with the, you know, turned into a Cat 4, I think, right before it came ashore. And I feel really, really bad for the folks up in the Big Bend area. I mean, they got whacked good. I'm just thankful that that didn't occur for us. So it went really, really smooth. How many received the text messages that I was sending out? That's great. That's great. I did clean up my, you know, the way I do it is in my cell phone. I create a contact in my cell phone for each and every individual person. And as part of that, I can create groups. And I do it by the section number, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can send one message out. I then copy that message and I paste it for section 2 and section 3 and section 4. So literally within about 3 minutes, I can send those text messages to everybody that I have the contacts for. So it worked out, I think, pretty darn good. I tried not to obviously overwhelm. Thank you for not starting to chat on the text messages, because it becomes really confusing really, really quick. And so it just keeps it a lot cleaner that way. The downside of that is I don't know if a single person got the text messages. So hence my question, how many received text messages? So I'm glad to see that part of it worked. We are in a bad crunch, folks. With the number of radio people that we are down to, and the medical, we have at least one section that has no medical people at all anymore. I brought that list, and section 1, pretty darn good, other than Ed D. Giovanni. He does a lot of traveling, and he's a radio person in addition to being a block captain. He's out of the mix. And Elaine Dawson, I haven't heard hide nor hair of Elaine in a long, long time, and I have her listed as a radio and a medical bag person, but I'm not sure that that's actually correct. Has anyone heard from Elaine? No, Elaine?
I think right now she's out of the country.
Okay, out of the country.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll have a chance to maybe chat with her and find out what's going on. Alice Malamphy, she's in section number 2. Larry and I received an email. She actually had sent me an email about 2 weeks ago saying that she was going to be resigning. I just kind of ignored it, hoping that she would maybe come to her senses on our behalf. But she sent Larry and I an email today, so I pleaded our case. She is just, I don't mean to say just, because it's an important position. She's a radio person only. She's not a block captain. She's not a medical person. So her attending, one of the issues that she kind of has is that she has a hard time getting here to attend the meetings, stuff like that. But as a radio person, her role really doesn't involve medical knowledge or, how the block captains really are working too much. And we have been doing this on Channel 17 almost every meeting. This meeting we're not. I felt that the topics we're going to go over today really weren't worthy of putting it on Channel 17. Right or wrong decision. But so I got that email and I said, if you might reconsider, and I, stated the case that she really only needs to come for one meeting a year. And I'm not putting anything bad on her because I think she's got some things going on at the house. So, but we're probably going to lose Alice in section number 2. Elaine Dawson, again, she straddles section 1 and section 2, so she's listed twice. She's kind of a no-go at this point. And Gary Nygren is a brand new radio medical person and the chair for the medical team. So there's that. And then we do have Robert Mikulski. He's a radio, but he's also a block captain. When you're dual roles like that, it's hard to be at a stationary radio location for block captains to come and turn in, or runners to turn in those medical forms if they come across somebody when they're triaging and checking on the houses. So, that's running kind of really, really thin. Section number 3, we have no medical team. And I think John Bradford is a radio person. He's not a block captain, so we would have at least one radio person, but again, no medical there. Now, the medical people would be, they're not really locked into their section. If there's a need in section 1, and let's say the other medical person either is out of town when the event occurs, or if something along that lines, we would ask another medical person to go over to section number 1 to that particular lot number and see what they can do to help whoever needs that medical attention at that point. Section number 5, Celine, and I can't necessarily Rendow. She's gone through September, so she'll be back shortly. I believe she heads up north somewhere, May through September. So we really had no medical person. She's a radio and medical. We had no medical person for section number 5. Peggy Smith, you may know her. She's the realtor person, and also I think she's in the chorus here. She's had some sort of medical thing that went on. I don't recall if it was a knee replacement or something that was going on. I don't recall. But she's not really been available. So we really had no medical and no radios for section number 5. And that's a pretty good sized section. So, you know, our situation is starting to get a bit dire, in my estimation, if we can continue. That's my assessment at this point. You know, I want to keep pushing as long as I can, see if we can get some new blood in here. That'd be really, really good. When I get the new residents, for those that are block captains, if we can maybe make a visit to those people in your area, if it's one of the lots that is assigned to you, and a new person is now at that house, it might really behoove us to pay a visit, say hi, welcome, and oh, by the way, we really could use your help, and it's for everybody's benefit, you know, that type of thing. That's all I've got on that. As far as training for block captains, I just want to remind everybody, we do have a few storms that are coming off the African coast. We are coming up on the peak of the hurricane season. About what? Yeah, it's September is the very peak. I want to say it's around the 10th, something like that. It's coming up pretty quick, but October isn't very far behind with the history of hurricanes hitting the United States. Not necessarily that they all hit Florida, but it's still an active season. And once they stop coming off of Africa, they'll start coming out of the Caribbean to the south of us again. So it ain't over yet, guys. And hopefully, cross your fingers, you know, maybe we dodge the bullets this year again. That'd be a wonderful turn of events, I believe. But when you do have to fill out a form, if we do activate, and you have to fill out a form, and you have that runner that's going to take it to the stationary radio location, if there's a radio, please make it as brief as you possibly can. Every extra word that's said over the radio can be not understood. Even in the best of situations, it's sometimes difficult to understand the radio communications. So the least amount of information is good. Circle the appropriate, if it's a trauma issue, severe bleed, you know, CPR issue. There's a place that you can circle on there, and we don't need a lengthy discussion of the wind was blowing 15 miles an hour and the rain was coming down and this, that, and the other. We only need to know we need medical there, and we need somebody that can handle CPR, or we got a severe bleed out going on. So, you know, try to not get into a lengthy dissertation, if you would please. That would be my number one thought as to what we can do to best help ourselves. Because the least we can, you know, fewer words sometimes is more, you know. So, any other thoughts?
No.
Okay. I think that's about it for me, guys. Don't give up the hope. I don't.
Thank you, Brian. On the table, you'll find the brochure, that spectrum. If you want to take it to one of your family members, do so. I still have maybe another 50 meteorologists went through and did their own perspective about preparation and dealing with hurricanes. It's very well done. Also on the table, you'll find our 18-month training plan. Just to go over a couple of things, next month we've got October 3rd, Carrie Barrett, some of you may know her, they're part of Orlando Health. She's right up the road on Highway 27 with Dr. Bayo. I think that's the way to pronounce it. A lot of people say Bello, but I think it's Bayo. And she's going to talk about preventive stuff and vaccinations and so forth. So we're grateful that she's coming in. And on November 7th, Captain John Carey, he was a presenter when I was at the CERT thing, and he's one that's in charge of EMS training for the county. Very good speaker, and he's going to come in and share some information on that. And then the end of the year, we'll have a regular potluck dinner type thing. Some of the things for next year, we're going to try to do it in March like we did last year, the expo that we had here in the social hall. So that was the first time we've ever tried it. Most of the people benefited from it. We had maybe 50 to 100 people that came through several communities. And most of the vendors, I've got their names, and so we're going to request them. And FEMA, we had the Sheriff's Department, Leesburg PD, 2 insurance companies, Hunt Law Firm has agreed to come in. Spectrum Weather will be here. So I think we've got a good setup for that. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And also, Fire Marshal named Captain Villa. This will be in June of next year. Very knowledgeable person will be coming in and talk to us. And also Don Heath. He works in the EOC, primarily down in the 911 center. And he's been in fire, police, and he's currently in SWAT right now. And they do have a SWAT advisor there. And a lot of things that he'll share, a lot of things that just things of domestic terror, things that may come up in terms of what their role is when things roll out. And you might be surprised, well, what will SWAT do during a weather event? They are deployed. And the thing is, you've got a lot of bad people out there, so if you got areas that storms hit, guess what? People want to steal and break into homes and so forth. So looking forward to that. One other announcement, Christine has agreed to take over the database, and that's a big plus. So,
Thank you, Christine.
the Kellys are moving to Arkansas, and I'm going to miss them. Not only they were great for this club, but also personal friends of mine. The bright side is moving to Northwest Arkansas. I went to the University of Arkansas, so I'm going to definitely make one trip every year up there to watch a football game. Anyway, well, let's go ahead and get started. Like I say, I had attended the meeting or the workshop that Lake County performed for CERT. They took it over from Leesburg, and basically the definition is basically neighbors helping neighbors. Well, guess what we are, neighbor to neighbor. So it kind of right on target for that. Again, it was a 4-day, Tuesday, Thursday, 9 to 4 on the schedule. And it was very informative. The speakers were great. The exercises were just tremendous. And it was a confidence builder. It's one of the points I had put up there. Build confidence in emergency situations. And the thing is prep, recruit, train, action. And that's what's the whole thing about trying to get into these communities to help. There were 4 communities represented besides Legacy. It was St. Francis over in Tavares, Lakes of Mount Dora, and then there's one name, it forgets me, that was up in the, what was it, Lady Lake area. And so we had about 7 or 8, we had 8 people to attend the training. And I do think what we've attempted to do here, we're probably way ahead of the curve compared to some of the other communities. In some cases, St. Francis is just starting, and same with the other community up north. Lakes of Mount Dora are probably right behind us in terms of what they're trying to do and so forth. They have a retired veterinarian, so they do stuff for dogs. So I don't think we're going to get in that because we don't have veterinarians here, but it was kind of interesting. He was really a neat person. He was a retired veterinarian. Next slide. Down button.
Ah, I did that.
Hmm.
You want this with you maybe at the podium? So you can see it?
No, I've got a presentation here. What is emergency management? There's four things that you deal with. One is the preparation in terms of the training and so forth and activities. Then you respond. There's a recovery process, and then after that is mitigation. And that's kind of like what we do in some of our drills, especially like 2 weeks ago and last year. We respond, and then we go back and mitigate, evaluate, upkeep, and train, and so forth. And it's kind of interesting if you know the history of Lake County in terms of their emergency management operation. Years ago, and I can't remember the year, but some of you may remember our tornado that hit up toward up north. Where was that?
Lady Lake and into
Lady Lake.
Sumter County.
They were operating out of a conference room. They had stuff in a closet. So when they actually tried to deploy, it was chaos for them. So finally, the county commissioners started allocating money and built the current center that we have, and it's probably one of the best I think you'll find anywhere. It's a 2-story structure, and the upstairs is primarily for emergency operation management. And we'll try to do a tour next year. If none of you ever been to one, it is a really good. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours of your time, but you really have an understanding of how that and the 911 center works.
Looks like we got some screens starting to happen here.
Oh, okay.
Still weird names.
All right. Yeah, the one with good neighbors ought to be the next one. There you go. Okay. CERT non-disaster roles. Okay, again, and I'll talk a little bit about what you are not to do as a CERT trainer, because it's not like you're going to go out and, here, I got 2 6-shooters and going out and doing your thing. It's the bottom line is neighbors helping neighbors. And that's where my role hopefully is to help us in a community of helping neighbors. The other thing, you can assist in special events. Good example, our expo. We're having one here. Sometimes you may be able to go over and promote, let's say we wanted to help the plantation. And if they were interested in doing something, I would try to go and maybe hook them up with Lake County. So that's another thing of trying to go out and promote. And then participating in drills, training, and exercises, which we do a fair job of that. It's not perfect, but we do attempt every year to go through different type of training, whether it be medical or the aspect of radio, the communications, the drills that we do, and so forth. And then we do have health and safety things that we bring into the community to help other people, because we're not just neighbor to neighbor club, we're neighbor to our community. Okay, next. Okay, the CERT courses basically was the course. The first day was course overview, and then we talked about CERT organizations. There were almost a full day dealing with medical operations. Now, it's not designed to help you to be a doctor. It's not going to give me the ability to do open heart surgery on Brian. Okay. But it goes very similar to our manual in terms of what we do in terms of things like stroke and heat exhaustion, CPR, and things of that nature. And so again, we've done a pretty good job of at least identifying what key things that could happen to someone if you went out in the community. Disaster psychology was a little bit different in terms of, for example, let's say Brian's house got pretty well leveled, and he's out and he's crying and so forth. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Oh, it's good to see you. He probably doesn't need that. He doesn't say, well, you were in a bad place, weren't you, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
a lot of times it's just being there, is there anything I can help your family with, Brian? You know, and that may be all you need to say. I mean, let him be able to say, I want some help, what can you do for me, and so forth. Fire safety and utility control, which we've done some things here in terms of trying to train the fire safety. Some of the things, and I'll get in that to a later slide, is that you don't want to become a victim yourself. So running into a burning house is not a good thing. This is not Chicago Fire. We're basically neighbor to neighbor. So then they had a presentation on light search and rescue operations and how the county does that. Domestic security and CERT, a lot of that deals with things like man-made, technological type disasters that can happen. And Don Heath, who was the SWAT guy, made that presentation. He did a very good job with it. And then the course review at the end, and we had a disaster simulation, which I might like to try to do next year. We could use it, the whole social hall and the other buildings, but what they did, they took the whole top floor. Each room had a different situation, and it's kind of going counterclockwise. Half of us divided up to be the victims. The other half were basically responding to the situation at hand, and then the instructors basically were there to coach and help. So it kind of went to the fact of being able to evaluate the situation and what you would try to do. For example, we had one person on the ground, breathing but unconscious, but she was lying on her back. You want to get it in a position on the left side where her face is turning down and so forth. So there was a lot of things that helped you understand exactly what to do. Because in some ways, if we do have a disaster like this, we may end up doing a simple triage ourselves. You know, if a person has a broken arm, you can address that, but it may be not as serious as a guy that needs CPR. So again, you're going to be able to maybe address that and go to the other person that may be having a heart attack or an issue there. Okay. So again, the CERT management, emergency management goal is to protect life, protect property, and protect the environment. And that's kind of what Lake County is kind of focused on. And of course, it breaks down to different things that if you ever go over there, you'll be able to see how they do that. Next slide. Okay, there's basically three types of disasters. One's natural, and what would that be an example of?
Hurricanes, tornadoes.
Right, hurricanes, tornadoes. If you live in Texas, a lot of hailstorms. Technical, what may be an example of that? Cyber attacks, exactly. It could be EMP. It could be things in terms of scams. I mean, we talked a little bit about that. I mean, we're always subject to things that are coming into our emails. And I get real interesting when I get a text that says, hi, I haven't heard from you lately. You ever get those type of things?
Yeah.
Or something, hey, I've got a big opportunity for you. It doesn't tell you much, but it's just trying to lure you into something so they can get into your phone or something else. Same with emails. And then, of course, the man-made 9/11's the worst example I can think of. But man-made disasters, it could be a terrorist attack. It could be something like a diversion where maybe a bomb goes off, but the middle of the big intent is get the emergency services away from an area and maybe rob a bank or something. So, okay, there's certain things as a cert, if you get certified, is you're not to self-deploy. I mean, right now, for me, my responsibility is to legacy. Also, tasks outside the scope of training. So like I said, I'm not going to go perform open heart surgery on Brian. It's just not my thing. And I probably won't do, I'm not going to do things I'm not confident in and I'm not trained to. So don't go beyond the scope of any type of training, and that applies to all of us. You're not to be John Wayne, concealed carry, anything like that. I mean, to me, that makes common sense, but I'm sure in the past, over the years around the country, they've had people that probably have done that. Drugs or alcohol on assignment, and then disclosing confidential information. So those are the no-nos that can basically get you in trouble as far as that is concerned. Okay, we'll get into the last two slides. These are my personal takeaways. One, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and your neighbors in that order. I mean, like I say, if there's something, if you're taking a risk to take care of someone and then you become the second victim, then that means somebody else is going to have to deal with two people. I mean, I've seen things in the news where people jump in the water and so forth. They may not can swim, but they want to, and then all of a sudden there's two people that are passed away or underwater. Be safe in your home, your community, and travel. Do not enter damaged homes. Take care of yourself. They had several examples in the rooms that we had set up. For example, if you've got a tree all over the thing, and there may be things going on in the inside, if you smell gas, I mean, the gas meters are outside, but there's a risk if you try to get into the house, into the garage, and the concrete's wet, and you go in and try to turn the power off. The main thing is to get 911 help and try to get people in to help with that. At least you're able to observe and report it. Now, if the porch is on the front and it looks like it's partly down, you go around the back, maybe that would be a different scenario. But they were really trying to say don't enter major damaged homes. Control bleeding and pressure bandage. We've taught that. A lot of cases, it's taking the gauze and putting pressure. You may have to, then that may take care of the issue. But if it continues throbbing and so forth, then the second thing is a tourniquet. Is the main thing is note the time and do not release. The doctors need to do that. They're saying that even with a tourniquet that's applied correctly, it could possibly save the limb within 6 hours. So, 2 or 3 hours into the incident and that person gets to the hospital, there's a good chance that they'll be able to save that appendage. On CPR, chest only. Okay, so you do the compressions. It's not, now, of course, AED is a different issue. But if there's nothing else available to you, chest compressions is the main thing.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they're teaching.
Interesting, because you're only supposed to do chest compressions only if you witness when that person went down.
Yeah.
If you're not there and you walk through the door and this person's laying on the ground, you are not supposed to do chest only. You are supposed to do compressions and breathing.
Yeah, they're not teaching that. Okay.
Interesting.
So, and again, Captain, Chief Carey be a good question for him when he comes out next year at one of our sessions, because he's in charge of EMS, and he was pretty emphatic about it. I guess from the history in terms of recovery and so forth. And then, again, the recovery position is moving a person on the left side and their face pointing down, which makes sense in case that they throw up and so forth. So they may not be conscious, but they are breathing. That's just a matter of getting into a position that hopefully that could enhance their ability to save their life and then get 911 to attend. Second, last page. Active shooter situation. I think a lot of us have heard this, is basically run, hide, and fight. Get away if you can hide, and if you get cornered, you got 3 or 4 people, they have a gun. More like if you cower there, your natural instinct may be just to want to stay there, but they've proven the fact that you can run. It may not save everybody, but it will startle the guy and so forth. One thing that we need to continue to do, and that's, I don't care whether you're in the military or something of what we're doing, is prepare, train, and respond. CERT is not going to make you a medic. CERT is not going to make you a fireman. What it will do is do a confidence builder. And again, CERT is basically putting neighbors above neighbors. And I'm hoping if we can get one, preferably two people, mid-January of next year, and I'll be talking to some of you to go and take part of it. It's just a matter of time getting over there, and there's some nice restaurants over there. I think there's a place called El Doro, something like that, tacos. It's walking distance, one of the best Mexican foods I've had since I moved from Texas, and that for me to say that, that's pretty important. But no, it was a great experience, and I'm hoping we can get a couple of volunteers. Any questions? Okay, I did a decent job.
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right. That concludes it. Again, we have more T-shirts. There's a special tonight, $10 a shirt. And you've got the training schedules, you got the brochure, so be sure to take that. You can, even if it's for your son or daughter or something like that, take it home. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.